Was there ever a point where you felt like I can't go into mainstream, the mainstream industry as a Christian or as a person of faith?
I never thought that I couldn't work in the secular industry. I think that the biggest thing that I would tell anyone is to really, really get before God and really seek Him.
Mm-hmm.
And He will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
I am a testament of that. I got the call and they were like, A-list artists, can you do it? Be here. Don't say anything, NDA before you even sign the NDA.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Truth Measured Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. I am excited about today's episode because I have one of my sisters with me. And I know she's going to just give so much insight and so many gems today. So I'm excited to talk to her and have you listen to her and meet her, the amazing Brooke B. Stings Brewer.
Oh my
Welcome.
gosh. Hey, it is so funny to hear people say my name.
Listen, you're humble, and so I think that's part of it. But you're amazing in and of yourself. I got to read this introduction because
oh gosh,
listen. Okay, Brooke Brewer is a versatile singer, vocal arranger, songwriter, and performer from the Inglewood, California.
City of Champions, yes.
There it is. With over 15 years of experience in the music industry, known for her ability to seamlessly blend into various genres, she has contributed her vocal talents to artists like Doja Cat, Kanye, Beyoncé, and many others. A multi-hyphenate, Brooke has worked as a background singer, vocal contractor, and has been featured in live performances, recordings, and music videos, including the American Music Awards, the Grammys, and BET Awards. With a passion for mentoring, Brooke has also worked as a coach, vocal coach, a choir director, and project manager, while continuing to develop her own musical voice as a songwriter.
Wow. Wear a lot of hats.
Listen, and you wear them well.
Thank you.
So that's why I wanted to talk to you specifically, because you are in the industry, and you're also a woman of faith. Mm-hmm. That's how we met. Was at church. Mm-hmm. You are a church girl.
Praising the Lord. Everywhere we go. Amen.
Church girl through and through.
Yes.
So I want to just jump in and talk about how you got into the music industry. Did you always know that you wanted to be a singer? Share with us what that journey looks like.
Okay. No, I did not always want to do this. I had no clue I would do this. I didn't know until like high school. So when I was a little kid, I was interested in forensic science. Okay. And I wanted to look at dead bodies and crime scenes. And I never forget when my mom, she used to live on this one street, and there was a murder that happened on the street in this man's house. And the cops came, it was caution tape, because nobody come on the block except for the residents. And I told my mom, I want to go down there and look at this. I don't even know if she will remember this. But I said, I want to go down there and look at it. She's like, girl, get in this house. But yes, I was interested in, I used to watch a lot of crime TV, and so I thought I was going to be something in that field, forensics.
Yeah.
And I still watch that stuff today. I don't know why. I like it. There's nothing wrong with me, I promise. But that, and then I used to carry around a little journal, and I would draw sketches of like clothes. And now I wouldn't call myself a fashionista today, but I would draw clothes. And so my cousin bought me a sewing machine when I was a kid, because she thought, oh, maybe you might go into that. But I had one cousin in particular who has had a very long career in the industry. And she was the first one to one of the first people to see something in me. And so every family reunion, she would make me sing a song. I used to hide from her. Like, I'd be hiding under the tables, or I'll go in the room that, everybody outside, I'm going inside, because I don't want her to make me sing. I was so shy. And without fail, she would come find me every time, and she'd make me sing. And I would sing the same song every year, Amazing Grace. That was the only song I knew. I didn't want to learn no other songs. I wasn't interested in it. Now, ironically, when I was in elementary school, I learned how to play the violin. I played it for 1 year, though. I should have stayed with it because I could be,
Yes,
out here
like
killing it by now.
singing and playing.
But I wasn't even, like, at that time, I didn't know that music would even be a thing for me. So I didn't take it seriously. And I remember my mom, she got me the violin, and it was kind of pricey. She spent her hard-earned money, and she said, "You better not mess this violin up," Black mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took care of it. Can't tell you where that violin is today. I played that thing for 1 year. I think I only learned how to play Three Blind Mice, But, my journey is my journey. I didn't end up sticking with it at that time. But as the story goes, when I was in high school, my mom put me in Amazing Grace Conservatory, which is a nonprofit program in the city of Los Angeles that serves kids like myself, like you, and it teaches them, gosh, I'm stumbling over my words. It teaches them acting, musical theater, acting, dancing, and singing. And you don't have a choice. You have to do all three disciplines. And so I went in there as a shy kid, but my mom, like, I was shy in public, but at home I had all the energy and all the imagination. Like, I used to make my sister, I said, "Come sit in the living room. We're going to play church." And I would be the pastor. And I would use these Bible books that my granny would get us, and I'd be teaching a lesson, or like sometimes we would role play, or I would get my grandpa's adding machine, and I'd be like, "Come on, we're going to play store." And I'm the cash register.
You're the one in charge.
Yes, every single time. And so my sister, she would play along with me, and sometimes we would switch roles, and then sometimes she didn't want to play along with me, and I would, play by myself. But when I got in high school, my mom put me in AGC, Amazing Grace Conservatory, and I was there for, I want to say, maybe like a year before it even hit me. There was one summer that I decided to volunteer there as a TA, and I think I was like maybe 15 or 16, and the voice teacher, he pulled me into the voice class when the kids were at lunch. He's like, "Just sing this song," and it was "Steal Away." It's an old hymn, and I'm singing the song, and I close my eyes, and I have this experience that I will never forget, and that's when I knew. It was like God came in that room with me while I was singing and was like, "Hi, nice to meet you. This is who you are," kind of thing.
How old were you?
I was probably like 15 or 16. And when I opened my eyes, the room was filled with people. And what they told me was, they were like, "We just heard this voice from down the hallway, and we just had to know who it was." And they came in there, and everybody was just like, mouths were on the floor. People were like, "What? You can sing?" Like, obviously I had talent. That's why I was there. But I just had kept it all to myself. So, ever since then, I kind of like went for it and never looked back. I didn't know really how to approach it. I would sign up and do everything that I could.
I remember hearing Jermaine Dupri, he was talking about how a lot of artists are groomed and prepared in church, right? And, the industry is filled with church kids who learn how to sing, play, all of that in church.
It's true, yeah.
And so in addition to AGC, how were you prepared in church for what you're doing now?
So I actually did not sing in church until high school as well.
Really?
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people think, "Oh, surely you must have been in church choir." At our church is called King's Kids, or we had youth and praise. I didn't do any of that because I didn't want to. I had no interest. Now my friends did it, and I used to love watching them, and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't do any of that. But I was raised in a church. Church was not an option. You couldn't play sick and get out of
Right.
and now you need to go to church even more and get some
Because you
healing.
got to get healed.
Okay. So my grandparents, they kept me and my sister in church, and we were always participating in something. So I would say before I knew that I was being prepared for a career in music, I was more so being prepared as a servant. So I volunteered in other areas of the ministry that taught me how to interact with people, which is very important in the industry. Taught me how to follow instructions, taught me how to watch and learn and kind of like pick up things without someone telling me to do, like how to take initiative, but also how to stay in my place.
Right.
Which are all I never even thought about this. Those are all skills that, you need in any area, no matter what you do. So I would say I was kind of being prepared in other ways. Now, when I did start singing at church, there was a lady, and I'm going to give her a shout out, Tanya Amy. She was one of the first ones at church to push me. There are some others there, but we were in the youth ministry, and they wanted to have a praise team over there. And so she was like, come on, you gonna do this. Come on up here, And she pushed me to lead. I was like, all right, I'll sing with y'all, But she was like, no, you're going to lead this song. And she showed me how to do it. And I remember she was pregnant with one of her kids, and she was doing it. I'm like, dang, she was like pregnant. I'm like, she knows she need to be sitting down, but she was out there and she was doing it. And then she moved to Africa, and I was like, now how you going?
You done got me started.
I was like, what am I going to do? She was like, you got this, you can do it. And she's now back here. She recently moved back with her family. And she came to me and she was like, I'm so proud of you. Look at how far you've come. And so it's kind of like a full circle moment. But yeah, I didn't grow up singing at church.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends who I do gigs with, that's their story. What you said about Jermaine Dupri. I know a lot of people like that. And when I tell people the age that I really kind of started singing, a lot of people are surprised. They're like, you seem like you've been doing this. And my only way to make it make sense is that this is just what I was created to do. And so it's in me, it's on me. It's like I can't even help it, I can't hide it. I don't know. It's God,
it is. And a lot of times growing up, I would always hear people say, so much of what they have is caught, not taught. And so it sounds like, with you, just a lot of the character building, learning how to be a servant, all of those things within community is what has led you to, be the person that you are and can be in the mainstream industry.
Yeah.
So knowing that you kind of started at 15, when you felt, the call, if you will, to do music, was there ever a point where you felt like I can't go into the mainstream industry as a Christian or as a person of faith?
No. No, I never thought that. There were things that I thought, okay, I should not do that.
Yeah.
Like obviously you want to stay away from drugs, stay away from alcohol, stay like the things that they tell you not to do or whatever. Right. But I never thought that I couldn't work in the secular industry. And I think that's probably because I don't know, because I didn't even know that it was something that I wanted to do. I was just so curious about all areas of it. So I would and I've always loved music too. That's the other thing. So even before I wanted to sing, I would listen to just about every genre. I was very eclectic. I used to print out lyrics to songs, and I would make mix CDs. I was always nervous of downloading a virus on my granny's computer because I put LimeWire on there, downloading music illegally. Yeah.
We was all criminals back then.
But once I figured out, like, okay, I'm going down this path, I was already doing musical theater. So that was exposing me to other genres as well. So I never thought about like, oh, I gotta only do gospel, because I was already doing it, know. And God strategically put people around me that were also believers, and working in the secular industry, while also still serving in church. So it was modeled before me before I even realized that I would be walking down a similar path.
I love that because, there are so many creatives that I've talked to, and just in hearing people's, story of how they start out in church and then they leave because they feel either not appreciated or they're told that they can only do gospel music, they can only do Christian music.
Yeah.
And so what it sounds like is, in your experience, you kind of had, again, that community there that was able to model for you what it looks like to walk with God and be what he called us to be, which is the light in darkness.
Yeah.
So how can you say, I'm only going to stick to this genre? You're preaching to the choir if you don't go out, into
Absolutely.
all the earth.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when we do that, unless God specifically is telling you to do that, then you put him in a box.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, we're supposed to go out. So the people that are coming into church, yes, we're there, we serve them and we help them and we pray for them, stand in the gap, do all those fun things. But there's also a part of being outside and just being your Holy Ghost filled self and letting the Lord attract people, And it's happened to me before I even realized it was really happening. When I decided to go to music school, I was sitting, we had like a little breezeway area where you could just kind of sit outside and, do your work or just get some fresh air or whatever. And I was sitting there, and this particular music school is Musicians Institute in Hollywood. And so you got people coming from all over the world to go to this school. I remember this girl, I don't remember what nationality she was, but she wasn't Black. And she comes to me in the breezeway and she's like, I don't know why I'm saying this, but can you pray for me? She's like, I just feel like you're the one to do it.
Yeah.
And so if I would have been a person that's like, oh, I only got to stay in this area, I only got to do this, I might have missed her.
Yeah.
I might have missed that chance. And my grandpa used to say to me, grandpa was always going to preach. He always going to minister to somebody. And if you got ears, he going to talk to you, right? And so he would say, you want to get this down in your spirit because you're going to meet people that I'm not going to meet. You're going to talk to people that I'll never know.
Right.
And you want to be able to always, be in a space where you can be used by the Lord. And so that was one clear example of the Lord using me, of somebody who I think I had maybe a couple classes with this young lady, but outside of that, we didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
But she was drawn to the light of the Lord that was on the inside of me. And, I don't know where she is today, but I know I prayed with her that day. And so I can walk the rest of my life knowing, okay,
you planted a seed.
I did something right, something towards that. And then, like I said, I had people around me that were like kind of living it out, whether they knew that they were being used by God or not, So like, for example, at AGC, it was very clear that, we're praying before every show, and like the way that they encourage the students, they're like, use the gift that God gave you, that type of language.
Yeah.
Even if all the kids there were not believers, they were saying things, the instructors at the time were saying things and planting little seeds that for me would develop into a, much greater thing. And so as I've been in the industry now for all this time, I just can't continue to walk with God, you know, and people see that. They see that.
How has you been connected to community, or staying connected to community, like help strengthen you? Because, I could imagine you going on tour with, some of these artists.
Yeah.
You're going to be in some spaces where, you have to really hold a line. You have to really hold a line as saying, this is what I believe.
Boundaries.
This is boundaries, all of those things. And so being connected to community, how has that helped you remain grounded?
Well, it's like accountability, number one, because I know when I talk to somebody, I want to be honest. I always want to be honest. If I tell a lie or if I kind of flub it a little bit, that weighs on me. I'll be thinking about that 2 weeks later, still like, dang, I should clear that up with that person, so I really try to be honest and have honest conversations. So the relationships that I build with the people in my community or the people that are around me, I just strive to be honest. And I can't be honest if I'm not accountable. You know what I'm saying? Like I just kind of marry those worlds. And I'll call somebody and be like, hey, I need to talk, or, I'm always praying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll read my Bible or I'll play the Bible Experience. I still listen to the Bible Experience.
See?
I don't know. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I say that to people, and a lot of people don't know what it is now. But all the, you know, for those that are watching and don't know, all the Black great people in the industry, whether they were actors, musicians, preachers, they came together and they all like read the Bible. And I was listening to that on the way here.
Were you?
Yeah, because I like it. It helps me, you know, to stay grounded.
Yeah.
You know, I try to read my Bible and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes when I'm traveling and if I'm not disciplined with my time, or if I'm moving between time zones, I'm not cracking that book open every time. So I try to listen to it so that I get it one way or the other. And so between that and always talking to God, I'm never afraid to start praying in tongues. I'll pray in tongues in the middle of rehearsal. You know what I'm saying?
Let's not forget the fact that you grew up under the Apostle Fred Price.
Yeah.
And so the word that you got growing up is like golden. I mean, that foundation is there. And so, you know, it's apparent when it's in you. You know, and it comes through you in just how you live your life. And I think for so many people, you know, who have this idea that you can't be around certain people if you're Christian. Well, you don't really understand who Jesus was, because that's all he did was sit with the sinners. Like, he wasn't sitting with the Pharisees, talking to them. Like, he was sitting with the people that needed him the most.
Exactly.
And so when it's in you, you can go in any place, you know, and especially if God is leading you there.
Yes. And it's that part.
Right.
It's where God is leading me, you know. So I remember years ago when I had a job. I haven't had a traditional job now in probably, I don't know, maybe like 10 years. But, and when I say that, I mean like 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I've been doing entertainment full time since I decided to walk away from traditional work. So, but I remember when I made that decision, I used to make vision boards all the time, like every year, the start of the year. And my prayer to God was I wanted to be able to travel and sing. That was all I wanted. I'm not asking for much.
Right.
Just want to travel and sing. And so when God began to open up those doors, it was about where he was placing me. Right.
Yeah.
So, even like singing at church, at one point it was like, okay, well, I was being asked to go sing at other churches. And I remember this lady was like, you going to somebody else's church? Did you ask your pastor? I was like, no, I didn't ask my pastor. Like, what? But little did I know that me being at another ministry, and I was never there like full time. I would just go and support for maybe a season or just a day or whatever. Yeah. And I ended up introducing people and making connections for people that would go on to change their life story.
Right.
You know, and so it was just kind of like being where God needed me to be at that moment. And so there was one point in time when my friends used to call me the plug, not in the bad way, but because I was, that's how I got into contracting, because I was always introducing people and saying, oh, you need somebody to do that? Here's this person right here, you know? And so that has happened so many times, but it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't there. Or maybe it would have. Maybe it would have, but it wouldn't have happened through me.
Right.
You know, but God leading me and telling me where to go is how, you know, doors have opened, not only for me, but for others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you been in a situation where you're like, okay, I really want to go this way, and God is like, no? And how do you reconcile that? Because I know for me, you know, I feel like I have a really good relationship with God. And so it's like, well, if I want to do this, God, it's because you want me to do it. And then he's like, no. And I'm like, but I have your heart. So what you mean no? Like, I really want to, you know. So how do you reconcile that, or how do you deal with those types of situations?
It can be difficult, but I try to ask, okay, if it's not for me, then what am I supposed to learn from it? Why am I seeing it?
Yeah.
You know, why is it before me if I'm not supposed to? So I try to change my perspective. And working in the industry, you get more no's than you get yeses, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned a long time ago not to take stuff personal. It's business. And I I just try to shift my perspective. Now, does it work all the time? No, there's been times when I done cried and I don't understand, and the dramatics of it all, because I can be very emotional. But I just really try to ask the Lord, okay, well, if then what am I looking at?
Right.
What are you trying to show me? Reveal to me what I'm supposed to learn from this if I'm not supposed to do it. Or, are you just showing me an idea, or is this something with that, like, what is it? I just start asking other questions.
Yeah.
Because if I dwell on the no too much, I go down the rabbit hole, and that's not good for me. And it starts to interact with the mental health of it all, which is very important. And we don't, even though we talk about it now more in 2026 than we probably did in the 90s or whatever, I think we should talk about it even more, because it is like, when you talk about, or you think about daily renewing your mind, that mental health journey, and like being on the road and being around all these other artists and you don't know what them artists are doing.
Right.
You hear stories about the Illuminati and all this kind of stuff. My granny told me one time, "Are you worshiping the Illuminati?" And I said, "Now why would you?" I said, "Now you raised me. Why would you say that?" And we got into a big argument.
Really?
And I told my mom, I said, "You need to get your mom." And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to disrespect my grandma, but why would she say that to me? But she was concerned because she didn't understand, and it looked like something that I probably should not have been doing, but I had clearance from God to be there, so I was there. But then there are times, like you said, where it's like, no, don't go over there. And I'm like, well, why?
Right.
And so I just try to always, I'm very inquisitive. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Very curious. And with anything that I do, I kind of want to know about every aspect of me. So I try to just shift my perspective, and I just try to move on.
Yeah.
I
think it's, one of the things that you said a few times is just, having that relationship with God and knowing where he's directing you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sometimes where you might get a no from, an agent or whatever, or it may be family that's like, why are you doing this? But when you have that personal relationship, you can always rest assured, like, okay, I know what God is telling me to do. So,
because at the end of the day, I'm in this body right here.
Mm-hmm.
When I close my eyes, I go to sleep by myself.
Right.
It's me and God. You know what I'm saying? So whatever anybody else perceives or thinks, or, whatever, like, that's cool, but you are not the author of my salvation.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work this out with God. So I'll have the conversation with you, or I won't.
Right.
But it's at the end. So if I don't have that personal relationship, I'm doomed.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
Yeah. Because if you're letting your life be dictated by somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know my beginning and the end. You weren't there when I was in my mother's womb. Like, you know what I'm saying?
How many hairs do I have on my head?
Right. You don't know what's going on over here. And I feel like a lot of times people, have so much to say until they see the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was another reason why, I wanted to touch on this topic with you, because I know you, and I know just the integrity that's there. I've been in worship sets with you and see God move through you, and it is powerful. It's like, I've heard, the words that have even been spoken over your life that are starting to manifest,
Mm-hmm.
and those sorts of things. And so, how do you encourage other young Christian artists who are wanting to walk into this industry, who may not have that community, or who may be, struggling with, okay, can I do both? Can I serve in church and still be in the industry?
Yeah. That's a big question. And I sometimes, like, people will ask me, well, kind of what worked for me, so that they could try to apply that to their lives. Mm-hmm. And I always caution people against that.
Yeah.
This worked for me because I had a relationship with God, and this is what I, felt led to do. So I always drive people back to the Lord.
Yeah.
You can look at me and, take some things learned from me or whatever, but at the end of the day, he may tell you to do something a little bit different than how he told me to do it.
Yeah.
You know, your character, your personality, what's on the inside of you is unique to you. So I would encourage anyone, young or old, to really seek the Lord and see what is it that he has placed on the inside of you that he wants to bring out.
Mm-hmm.
And what areas is that needed in? You know, really seek God about that. And then, you know, the discipline, the self-control, and all just the things that we know that we should be doing, right?
Right.
If you know better, you have to do better.
Yeah.
You have to be accountable, because we're going to answer for all of this stuff one day, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it may look fun or seem fun to do. Like, I'm not perfect. I done had my day where I was like, I want to try this. Try and find out. And I've learned a lot of lessons doing that, you know? Did I have to do those things to learn those lessons? No.
Yeah.
But, you know, curiosity. So I think
mercy and grace.
Yeah, mercy and grace. Woo, it has carried me, okay? But I think that the biggest thing that I would tell anyone is to really, really get before God and really seek him.
Mm-hmm.
And he will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
I am a testament of that. I told you I wanted to travel and sing.
So
and
how
I have
did
done
you,
that.
What did that look like, making that leap of being like, okay, I'm going to do this full time? Like, what did it require you to put in a two-week notice and be like, okay, I'm gonna thug it out and, you know, be a starving artist for a while? Like, what did that look like?
So I was working part-time. I never had a full-time job. I always would do part-time because I was always doing, like, I would work and do something else. So I was doing theater here in LA. After I graduated high school, I was no longer a part of AGC because you age out at like 18.
Okay.
So I wanted to still do theater. I was kind of thinking about moving to New York, but I didn't really have the guts to do it. So I would do small shows here around the city. And then I ended up, one of the other churches that I was singing at, I ended up meeting a vocal contractor. And he started to call me for gigs. And so I was starting to have to take off work to do these gigs. And so once I started taking off too many times, you know, you only got so much PTO.
Right.
I prayed to God and I said, okay, if I'm going to be getting more gigs in the entertainment world, you know, release me to walk away from this job so that way I can just do entertainment full time. And that's pretty much what happened. He gave me the release to walk away. I gave them notice.
Yeah.
And I had such a good relationship with the people in that office. It was a nonprofit. That's the other thing. I always worked for nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
Service.
Yeah.
You know, and so this particular nonprofit, I loved everybody in that office, and I believe that they loved me as well. They were very supportive of my career. They knew exactly who I was created to be. Mm-hmm. I would sing when we would have our fundraising galas. I would participate in, we had a theater for social change project that I participated in. So they knew exactly who I was.
Yeah.
And they knew that I wasn't going to be there forever. So when I told them, they were like, okay. And they also it was kind of like an open door, like if I needed to come back. And I did. I went back for a couple months at one point in time. And I was like, I knew that I fully couldn't commit. So I was like, okay, I gotta walk away for good, you know. But yeah, when I got the release in my spirit to pursue entertainment full time, that's what I did. And I was blessed to be able to work. And then the union came knocking at my door, SAG-AFTRA. I owe them some money right now. So, but they said, hey, you've been on TV a few times now doing this work. You need to join us or else you won't be able to work. I was literally, I think it was when I was doing the BET Awards one year, and the contractor came to me and said, hey, so you need to join SAG or else. Mm-hmm. And I joined SAG and paid them all the little money that I had made. Lord Jesus. And they wanted dues for the work that I had already done, you know. So at that point, that's when it became the faith walk, right? It's like, okay, I have to figure out how to make this balance because I'm not getting my paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm on net 30, net 60. Yeah. In some cases, net 90, which y'all know y'all need to stop that mess. But, I'm like, okay, I had to learn how to balance. And the blessing of it all is that I was blessed to still live at home. A lot of people that are doing what I do are on their own, away from their families, don't really have that safety net around them.
Yeah.
And I just did not come from a family that said, okay, you 18, you got to get out.
Right.
They always let me come back home. And so even in my travels and everything like that, I could always come back home. And I tried to branch out and live on my own for a little bit. And then I moved back home when the pandemic hit, So have I ever been a starving artist? Maybe so, but I never called myself that.
Yeah.
And God always provided.
Yeah.
And yeah,
so what was your moment, if you had one, where you was like, okay, God, this is what I prayed for? Because I know, like, for me, I've seen you on TV and I'll be looking for you and I can always spot you. I'll be like, oh, there go Brooke. The award show, or on TikTok scrolling and it's a video or whatever that pops up. I'm like, there goes Brooke. And so I get so excited when I see you, but I'm sure you had to have a moment where you was just like, this I'm living what I prayed for. What was that moment?
When I got the call for Kanye Sunday Service, before we even knew what it's gonna be. I get a call, and I was a part of an a cappella group at the time, and so we would go and do gigs around the city. And I got the call, and they were like, A-list artists, can you do it? Be here, don't say anything, NDA before you even sign the NDA.
Yeah.
And then at the time, I was very close with the contractor, and so he told me who it was, and I'm freaking out, but I can't say anything.
Yeah.
So I called my friend, who I know is also on the gig, because there's safety if we're both on it, because we can't talk to nobody else. So it was that moment, because I was a huge Kanye fan. I had followed his music from, like, I think maybe like from when I was in middle school. I fell in love with his music because he would sample a lot. And I was always curious about, where did he get this from? And then I would research where the sample came from, and then I would figure out how he tweaked it to make it sound, And so when I got the call for that, I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember being on the phone with my friend, Steve Epty, one of my best friends to this day. And I was like, this is it. Like, we're doing, like, oh my God. Now, he had already sang, my friend Steve, he had already went on tour with Beyonce. So I was like, okay. And he's a church kid as well. So we always praying together and talking. Like, oh my gosh, it's happening. But it was kind of the same moment for him, because he's from Chicago. And so he's like, oh my gosh, like a hometown hero, So we had this conversation on the phone, and I'm like, this is what we've been praying for. And he's another person that we would do vision boards together. We would stay up late at night with our friends and just dreaming and just speaking life to the visions that God had placed on the inside of us. And so, definitely. And the Kanye thing was supposed to be a one-time thing. It was supposed to be a one-time thing. We were supposed to show up, rehearse for 2 days, sing on Sunday, and that was it. Get our money, go home, right? And then Kanye just ended up falling in love with it. So we rehearsed for like 2 or 3 days, did that first Sunday, and then he was like, can y'all come to my house on Tuesday? So it was like a very quick turnaround, and then it just became a weekly thing, and then before you knew it, 3 years went by.
Yeah. It reminds me of that verse in Ephesians where God says he will do exceedingly abundantly above. Yes. And so when you listen, so when you were saying earlier how you was like, God, I just want to sing and travel, that's it. And he has done so much more and sustained you while doing it.
Yeah.
And so kind of switching to like the business side of it, because you got to navigate that part too, right? So you're
still learning that part,
right? You got the creativity, you're the artist. How have you learned to navigate the business side for the last 15 years? Has it been like an up and down kind of thing?
Absolutely, it's been up and down. Absolutely, it is like a roller coaster. Sometimes I would feel like just like in the dark when it came to the business, and going back to me just naturally asking a lot of questions, I would just start asking questions. I asked questions so much that other people came to me asking me questions. Like, I know you asked that question. What did they tell you? And I would tell people, go ask. So I started to ask questions, and I was going to the source and asking questions. And I was taking pictures of every paper that I signed, whether I would go back and read it later or not. I wanted to have a picture of it because, they're supposed to email you a copy of these documents that you're signing and stuff. And those emails don't always come through.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let me start taking pictures of everything. And then I would just take notes. I would write stuff down. I would, and little did I know, once I joined the union, that kind of stuff became very important. Because if you're like, let's say you're in the studio recording for a major artist or whatever, the way that SAG or the union figures out how to pay you sometimes is based on how many times you record. Like, we call it stacks.
Yeah.
So like if I'm recording this one part and I have to record that part 3 times, well, then that falls into a certain category that denotes that goes to a dollar amount.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it 6 times, that goes to another category, and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's all broken down into the nitty gritty. And so it took me bumping my head a few times. There were times when I left money on the table, or perhaps probably didn't get paid what I was worth or whatever. Yeah. That's another thing with understanding the business, understanding what I'm worth.
Yeah.
Understanding that you called me.
Yeah.
To provide this service. I didn't come knocking on your door.
Right.
And because I don't have any type of representation. So I work when my phone rings.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that I won't go on an audition or, put myself out there. I do that. I have done that. But more recently, I really haven't had to do that. People call me, I answer, I say yes or no.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm like, okay, now I'm at a point where it's like, there's a certain dollar amount that it's just not even worth my time. I don't want to go below a certain dollar amount unless the Lord tells me, serve in this area, and I'll do it sometimes. But there's a certain dollar amount that I just don't even.
Yeah.
If you ain't got it, don't come. Or I'll refer you to somebody,
right,
who will do it for that, because I understand that everybody's budget is not,
Yeah, everybody's budget is different.
Everybody don't have it, but it came from me really asking questions, and like I'll call you and say, hey, Tiffany, what you think about this? Or, can you help me understand this? What am I signing?
Yeah.
I really started to just use my resources, and I only have like a couple people that I trust to be honest with me.
Yeah.
When it comes to certain things like that. So I keep them in my Rolodex.
Yeah.
You are one of those people. And I try not to take advantage too, But
and it's one of those things where it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you don't ask questions, and then based on the response that it might lead to other questions like, well, I didn't even think about that, but something about that don't sound right.
Yeah.
But, it's obviously different in church because a lot of times creatives feel like their gifts are undervalued, because if you sing in on the worship team, most churches are not paying you to do that.
It's very rare.
I'll
tell you this. I was singing at church for free for a very long time. And when I started to go to other churches, I was being asked, like I told you, being asked to go to other churches, and they would give me a check at the end. And I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
And I remember, I was telling, I don't know if I can even say this, but I'm going to say it. I was approached about getting paid in church, and I was like, I don't want to get paid.
Yeah.
I was like, I will always sing for God for free. And there was a lady that told me, she was like, girl, take this money. Because at the time I was making money, outside. So I was like, God is sustaining me,
Right.
The lady was like, if you don't want to use it, she was like, then save it. She's like, you may need it, at a later date or whatever. And so I am blessed to be able to say that I have been one of the few that, the church has poured into me financially. But even when it hasn't happened, like God will just send somebody to just put money in my hand.
Yeah.
And so.
But I brought that up because I think sometimes as a, when you're walking the line of like being a worship leader, which you are, and also being an artist where there's like that performance that's not necessarily in, that you would use for worship leading, sometimes we forget to value the creative gift that God gave us. You know what I mean? Because you're like, God, I'm giving this back to you. I don't want to accept any money. I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a hireling.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. But when people want to acknowledge and appreciate your gift, it feels weird. Like, and so I think churches are now coming around to where singers are getting paid, but usually we weren't. Like, get a hot plate at the end and a great job, and you know what I mean? So
and the thing what's so interesting about this is that the musicians have been getting paid for eons. I know musicians that they don't even tour. They're supporting their families because they'll go and play at 2-3 different churches,
which I never understood.
Do different services, and they are making, I won't say making bank because I'm not in everybody's pockets, but at least enough to support themselves,
right?
Their kids, their wife, whoever, whatever their situation is. And I've seen that for years. And so to see that churches are now starting to pay some of their singers, it's still kind of taboo for a lot of churches. And then you start counting the dollars and you're like, well, can we even afford to do that?
Right.
You've been paying your musicians $500 a service, $400 a service.
Why do you think that is, though? I mean, because my thought has always been like, I mean, if it's a need based, right? And you need this person here to play, and you also need a singer to sing. I mean, I guess you could do a congregational, but like, how do you, like, okay, we're going to pay our musicians, but not the singers. And why is it this distinction, I guess? I never understood that.
I don't know that there's even a real answer for it other than where do they place the value, right, on like what they need. So like if churches feel like they need the musicians, but like you said, that we can work it out with the congregation, or I know sister so-and-so, well, she'll just sing because it's always been on her heart. She just wants somebody, it's kind of like, I'm not saying that this is the answer, but that's kind of how I look at it. It's kind of like, okay, well, if I can kind of cut it short in this area, but I know I gotta pay this, because if I don't pay Johnny to play that bass, he's gonna leave, and then now I'm out of a bass player, or now and even with that, like, I think that musicians sometimes have just spoken up more, and they'd be like, hey, if y'all can't do this, then I can't do it, and I gotta, or they'll leave, or they just won't be available, or they'll be like, well, I'm not coming to rehearsal, and so I think it's like a commitment thing that I've seen. I keep hitting this microphone. I've seen musicians kind of be a little bit more vocal about what they will and won't do or accept. And sometimes with singers, it's kind of like, I'm happy to be here.
Right.
And while, yes, I am happy to be here, I also have needs, and there's also things that even with church, there's preparation that goes into that. I have to do my due diligence on my own before I even come to church to even lead and worship. If I'm not living my life right, if I'm not, and even with picking songs, I have to be seeking God, what songs do you want to minister to your people? I can't just be like, okay, we're gonna do Bless, and I just sang Bless on Sunday, so that song is in my head, and Fred Hammond's Tiny Desk came out, but I'm just like, I can't just be like, okay, we're gonna do Bless, and just because I know Bless works. No, what song, Lord, do you want to hear for us to sing praises to you, for us to be in worship and in communion with you, and so, but that's all stuff that I have to do on my own.
Right.
That takes time. That takes, I have to learn how to do that. The skill set that I have with how to use my voice, if I'm singing and I'm hitting a very high note versus, something that's more intimate and, dynamics and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff takes skills and preparation, and, there's worth there. There's value there. That should be appreciated.
Right.
There should be some type of something for that, and so I think that churches are figuring out how to navigate that with the singers. Is everybody going to be able to get paid? Probably not.
Yeah.
Or maybe so, because we serve a God of abundance. So what are we praying for? Where are we aligning our faith? If this is something that you want in your ministry, how do we go to God and say, okay, God, give us the resources to be able to do this. If it doesn't look like a check, then what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how can we support our people that are serving in ministry this way?
Right. And I think the value is what's important, because when people don't feel valued, they go where they're going to feel that value. You know, they're going to go somewhere else. And so one of the things, you know, being in my position in, you know, as an attorney, and then also doing worship leading and stuff like that, but not in the industry full time, I still hear and see a lot of people that are in your position who are just like, I don't feel the value here or at church. And so they leave. But it's like, what do we as a church need to do to make people feel valued, to value their creativity, so that they can serve in church and then also, you know, do what they love to do, but not feel like they have to choose? Because I don't feel like God wants us to have to choose whether I'm going to serve him or be in a secular space. Because I feel like, honestly, we're all called to secular spaces.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not full time.
Yeah.
As in the sense of that being your only job, but wherever we go, we're supposed to be the light wherever we are.
I just sang at a funeral last week, and there was a lady that got up to speak, and she was saying how she used to work for, I think she worked for the Department of Water and Power, something like that. But she said the Lord told her to start doing Bible study on her lunch break. And the lady whose funeral it was, the lady who passed, she came to those Bible studies on the lunch break, and she got saved.
Wow.
And that was at a place, that's a secular place.
Yeah.
People think secular just means music industry or entertainment. No, your job.
Right.
The grocery store.
Right.
God can use you anywhere, on the freeway.
Yeah.
You know,
when you decide not to have road rage because they didn't look you over.
Yeah. So I think that obviously it's magnified because of the industry that, you know, that I'm in, but it's the same thing with everybody. It just looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope that people watching this will see that, you know, God is not, we often try to confine God to just the four walls of the church.
Oh.
And I think we're
So
not
much bigger
only
than that.
so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Like, and if we look at the life of Jesus, I mean, again, he wasn't sitting with the Pharisees. Most of the time he was rebuking them and telling them how crazy they were, right? And so I think what your journey and your life experience thus far has shown is that God can, when you have that relationship with him, he will lead and guide you where you can go, and he will give you like the desires of your heart and blow your mind while doing it.
Oh yeah.
So before we wrap up, like what can we expect to see next from Brooke, aside from, you know, the shows and things like that? I know that you are a songwriter. And so what's next? If you can tell us, it might be, you know, she might have to tell me only.
Oh, you know, I am in a area of life right now where I'm trying to figure out what's next. I don't have a concrete plan right now. I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a phase where God is reshaping me and kind of, you know, I'm the clay and he's the potter right now. And so I don't really have an answer. I mean, I'm always singing, so
yeah,
you know, I can be singing somewhere at any given time. But yeah, I feel like I'm in like a rebuilding phase right now. So I guess to answer that question, what's next is the next level.
Hey, I love it.
The next level, yeah. And things are even changing in my personal life and stuff. So, you know, I'm looking at, you know, what does it look like for me to have a family and work in entertainment?
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but is it something that I want to, you know, I want to be a mom one day.
Yeah.
Do I want to be away from my children because I'm on tour? Like,
yeah.
You know, so that's kind of where I'm like, okay, what's happening now? God is repositioning me, if you will. And so I think the next level, that's all I can say, the next level.
Y'all heard next level. So we will look out for Brooke on the next level.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you again for joining us, and tune in for the next episode.